There's a particular ethos in U.S. culture, especially in entertainment and marketing culture, that very much appeals to people as individuals, that you don't have to be devoted or subservient to anything else. There is no larger good than your own good and your own happiness. We all worship, and we all have a religious impulse. We can choose to an extent what we worship, but the myth that we worship nothing and give ourselves away to nothing is simply sets us up to give ourselves away to something different. For instance, pleasure, or drugs, or the idea of having a lot of money and being able to buy nice stuff. And kids get exposed to very early that you are the most important, and what you want is the most important, and that your job in life is to gratify your own desires. That's a little crude to say it that way, but in fact it's something of the ideology here, and it's certainly the ideology that's perpetrated by television and advertising and entertainment, and the economy thrives on it. This is one enormous engine and temple of self-gratification and self-advancement, and in some ways it works very, very well. In other ways, it doesn't work all that well. It's a very complicated thing, and full of paradoxes and ironies and all kinds of stuff. And the idea that America is one great big shopping mall, and that all anyone wants to do is, grasp their credit card and run out and buy stuff. American economic and cultural systems that work very well in terms of selling people products and keeping the economy thriving do not work as well when it comes to educating children or helping us help each other know how to live. Really, it means something different from whatever I want to do. I want to take this cup and throw it right now. I have every right to. I should. That we've seen it. We see it with children. That's not happiness. That feeling of having to obey every impulse and gratify every desire. Nobody talks about it as such, though. It talks about freedom of choice, and you have the right to have things. Spend this much money and you can have this stuff. Again, saying it this way, it sounds to me very crude and very simple. And it works very well as a system for running an economy and keeping goods produced and sold, and it works wonderfully. The ways in which it doesn't work are much more difficult to talk about. Now I feel embarrassment because I'm going to sound like my grandfather or something, but the word citizen, the idea of being a citizen, it would be to understand your country's history and the things about it that are good and not so good, and how the system works, and taking the trouble to learn about candidates for political office, which means often reading stuff, which isn't fun. Sometimes it's boring. Talking about this now, I feel ashamed, because my saying all this sounds to me like an older person saying this, like a person lecturing, which in American culture sets me up to be ridiculed. It would be very easy to make fun of what I'm saying. It'd be very, very easy to make fun of what I'm saying, and I can hear in my head a voice making fun of this stuff as I'm saying it. And this is the kind of paradox, I think, of what it is to be a halfway intelligent American right now, and probably also a Western European, is that there are things we know are right and good and would be better for us to do, but constantly it's like, yeah, but it's so much funnier and nicer to go do something else, and who cares, and it's all bullshit anyway. And one of the things it causes is tension and unhappiness in people. I don't think it's very complicated, and I don't think I've named the only reason for it. The paradox is that sort of tension and complication and conflict in people also makes them very easy to market to. Because I can say to you, feeling uneasy, life feels empty. Well, here's something you can buy or something you can go do. It makes us. It makes for the economics term is inelasticity of demand. I demand all the time, no matter what the price of it is, and it works really well in an economic way. emotionally, spiritually, in terms of citizenship, in terms of feeling like a meaningful part even of this country, forget the world. But it's also a natural extension of certain cultural messages we send ourselves about ourselves that work very well in some ways and make us very rich and very powerful. It's all complicated.